This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Wurzel-flummery by A. Milne. Read by Ted DeLorme
and Kristen Hughes.
From the collection First Plays. Introduction. Wurzel-flummery was produced by Mr. Dion Boucicault at the New Theatre in April 1917. It was originally written in 3 acts, in which form it was shown to 1 or 2 managers. At the beginning of 1917, I was offered the chance of production in a triple bill if I cut it down into a 2-act play. To cut even a line is painful, but to cut 30 pages of one's first comedy, slaughtering whole characters on the way, has at least a certain morbid fascination. It appeared, therefore, in 2 acts, and one kindly critic embarrassed us by saying that a lesser artist would have written it in 3 acts. And most of the other critics annoyed us by saying that a greater artist would have written it in 1 act. However, I amused myself some months later by slaying another character, the office boy no less, thereby getting it down to 1 act, and was surprised to find that the 1-act version was, after all, the best. At least I think it is. At any rate, that is the version I am printing here. But, as can be imagined, I am rather tired of the whole business by now, and am beginning to wonder if anyone ever did take the name of Wurzel-flummery at all. Probably the whole thing is an invention. Wurzel-flummery, a comedy in 1 act. It is a June day before the war in the morning room of Robert Crawshaw's townhouse. Entering it with our friend the house agent, our attention would first be called to the delightful club fender round the fireplace. On one side of this a Chesterfield sofa comes out at right angles. In a corner of the sofa Miss Viola Crawshaw is sitting, deep in the Times. The house agent would hesitate to catalogue her, but we notice for ourselves, before he points out the comfortable armchair opposite, that she is young and pretty. In the middle of the room, and facing the fireplace, is a solid knee-hole writing table, covered with papers and books of reference, and supported by a chair at the middle and another at the side. The rest of the furniture and the books and pictures round the walls we must leave until another time, for at this moment the door behind the sofa opens, and Richard Meryton comes in. He looks about 35, has a clean-shaven, intelligent face, and is dressed in a dark tweed suit. We withdraw hastily as he comes behind Viola and puts his hands over her eyes. 3 guesses who it is?
The Archbishop of Canterbury?
No.
The Archbishop of York?
Fortunately, that exhausts the archbishops. Now then, your last guess.
Richard Meryton, MP.
Wonderful. How did you know?
Well, it couldn't have been Father.
No, I suppose not. Not just after breakfast, anyway. Anything in the paper?
There's a letter from Father pointing out that...
I never knew such a man as Robert for pointing out.
Anyhow, it's in big print.
It would be.
You were very cynical this morning, Dick.
The sausages were cold, dear.
Poor Dick. Oh, Dick, I wish you were on the same side as Father.
But he's on the wrong side. Surely I've told you that before. Viola, do you really think it would make a difference?
Well, you know what he said about you at Basingstoke the other day.
No, I don't, really.
He said that your intellectual arrogance was only equalled by your spiritual instability. I don't quite know what it means, but it doesn't sound the sort of thing you want in a son-in-law.
Still, it was friendly of him to go right away to Basingstoke to say it. Anyhow, you don't believe it.
Of course not.
And Robert doesn't really.
Then why does he say it?
Ah, now you're opening up very grave questions. The whole structure of the British Constitution rests upon Robert's right to say things like that at Basingstoke. But really, darling, we're very good friends. He's always asking my advice about things. He doesn't take it, of course, but still he asks it. And it's awfully good of him to insist on my staying here while my flat was being done up. I bless him for that. If it hadn't been for the last week, I should never have known you. You were just Viola, the girl I'd seen at odd times since she was a child. Now, oh, why won't you let me tell your father? I hate it like this.
Because I love you, Dick, and because I know Father. He would, as they say in novels, show you the door. And I want you this side of the door for a little bit longer.
I shall tell him before I go.
But not till then. That gives us 2 more days. You see, darling, it's going to take me all I know to get round him. You see, apart from politics, you're so poor, and Father hates poor people.
Damn money.
I think that's what Father meant by spiritual instability.
Viola. Oh, Lord, look out.
Matches?
Thanks very much. He lights his pipe as Robert Crawshaw comes in. Crawshaw is 45, but his closely trimmed mustache and whiskers, his inclination to stoutness, and the loud, old gentlemanly style in trousers which he affects with his morning coat, make him look older, and, what is more important, the pillar of the state, which he undoubtedly is. Good morning, Richard. Down at last. Good morning. I did warn you, didn't I, that I was bad at breakfasts? Viola, where is your mother?
I don't know, Father. Do you want her?
I wish to speak to her.
All right, I'll tell her.
Richard, why don't you get something to do? My dear fellow, I've only just finished breakfast. I mean generally, and apart, of course, from your, work in the house. I have something to do. Oh, reviewing. I meant something serious. You should get a directorship or something in the city. I hate the city. Ah, there, my dear Richard, is the intellectual arrogance to which I had to call attention the other day at Basingstoke. Yes, so Viola was telling me. You understood, my dear fellow, that I meant nothing personal. And it's justly one of the proudest boasts of the Englishman that his political enmities are not allowed to interfere with his private friendships. Oh, I shall go to Basingstoke myself one day. Enter Margaret. Margaret has been in love with Robert Crawshaw for 25 years, the last 24 years from habit. She is small, comfortable, and rather foolish. You would certainly call her a dear, but you might sometimes call her a poor dear.
Good morning, Mr. Meryton. I do hope your breakfast was all right.
Excellent, thank you.
That's right. Did you want me, Robert?
Yes. Richard, what are your plans? Is he trying to get rid of me, Mrs. Crawshaw?
Of course not. Are you, dear?
Perhaps we had better come into my room, Margaret. We can leave Richard here with the paper. No, I'm going. I have some particular business to discuss. If you aren't going out, I should like to consult you in the matter afterwards. Right. Sit down, Margaret. I have some extraordinary news for you.
Yes, Robert?
This letter has just come by hand. 199 Lincoln's Inn Fields. Dear Sir, I have pleasure to inform you that under the will of the late Mr. Anthony Clifton, you are a beneficiary to the extent of £50,000.
Robert!
Wait. A trifling condition is attached.